Carl Jung spoke of something most people will never encounter in themselves: 8 signs of an exceptionally rare personality type. If you recognize even half of these traits, you may belong to what I call the psychological elite. Jung's decades of research revealed that less than 5% of humanity ever develops what he described as differentiated consciousness, a way of perceiving reality that feels almost otherworldly. But here sits the unsettling part. Most of these rare individuals spend their lives convinced something is wrong with them. Jung recorded case after case of people with frightening psychological depth, people society branded as too much, too sensitive, too intense, too unwilling to swallow shallow truths. But Jung knew the secret. These were not flaws, they were upgrades. The shocking truth: these rare personalities are not just different, they are evolutionarily advanced, carriers of humanity's next stage of consciousness. And yet, society tells them to dim their light, to hide their fire, to bury their gifts under layers of shame. You've been told you feel too deeply, think too strangely, want too much. But Jung understood these weren't weaknesses, they were signals of what he called psychological differentiation, the rarest architecture of the mind. Think about it. Throughout history, the ones who pushed humanity forward were the outsiders, the restless, the ones who questioned everything and saw what others could not. But here lies the tragic irony. Society fears them, and so it trains them to believe their strengths are burdens. Now we descend into the depths of Jung's psychology to uncover the 8 definitive signs of these rare souls. If you see yourself in these patterns, then you will finally understand you were never too much for the world. It is the world that has always been too little for you. Sign 1: emotional depth that borders on the supernatural. Jung noticed something chilling. Certain individuals do not simply feel emotions, they are possessed by them. What others dismiss as overreacting is in truth emotional sophistication. Emotions move through you, not as fleeting moods, but as symphonies, carrying layers of meaning no ordinary mind can access. You sense tension in a room before anyone speaks. You feel the undercurrents of silence, the echoes of thoughts unspoken. This is not instability. This is resonance with the objective psyche, the deep collective layers of human experience that most have long forgotten. Jung himself wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But for you, everything becomes a doorway to a hidden truth." Sign 2: sacred curiosity. Where most accept reality as it's handed to them, you cannot. You ask not only what, but why. Why do we cling to dead systems? Why do we tolerate false connections? Why do we pretend this thin surface of life is all there is? Your curiosity is dangerous because it pierces illusions. Others feel safe in their chains. Your questions rattle them, terrify them, because you are not just searching for answers, you are dismantling the fragile defenses that keep people numb. If you've ever been told you ask too many questions, whisper it now. My curiosity is sacred. Sign 3: conscious independence. Jung once warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. You've done this, not out of choice, but out of necessity. Unlike the masses, who drown in borrowed identities, you've been forced to stand apart to claim yourself. Your independence is not rebellion, it is survival. It is the natural result of a mind that refuses to collapse under conformity. And this is only the beginning. Your independence isn't a defense mechanism, it's an achievement. You learn the hard way that depending on others for your worth is psychological quicksand. So you built yourself from the bones of solitude. You stood, often in silence, and forged an identity that no one could take away, not through opinion, betrayal, or absence. Jung called this individuation the terrifying journey toward wholeness. Most never attempt it, because it requires walking through the darkness of the shadow, the parts of yourself you were taught to bury. Your solitude isn't set loneliness. It's sex sanctuary. It's the place where you shed the masks, strip away the roles, and remember the raw truth of who you are. Jung believed this knowledge of self is the foundation of all psychological health. Few dare to look, fewer survive it. Sign 4. Hyper-alive awareness. Jung shattered psychology when he legitimized intuition as a function of the psyche. He described it as perception through the unconscious, a silent intelligence that drags hidden truths into the light. You don't just notice people, you read them. Their micro-expressions, their energy shifts, the words unsaid. When someone insists, "I'm fine," but their very skin screams distress, you can't unsee it. When tension crackles in the room and everyone else smiles politely, you feel it coil in your bones. This isn't set paranoia. It's sensitivity sharpened into a blade. But Jung warned of the cost. If you don't guard this awareness, it will consume you. You become the unconscious therapist of every room, carrying sorrows that are not yours, silently bleeding from wounds you never received. Sign 5. The hunger for meaning. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But what if being true means rejecting everything society demands? For you, it isn't a choice. It's a compulsion. Your psyche requires meaning the way lungs require air. You may have tried conformity, applause, achievements, validation, but you felt the quiet emptiness underneath, the creeping sense of betrayal. Jung called this the rebellion of the psyche, when living against your nature makes you sick, neurotic, hollow. That's why shallow goals disgust you, why surface-level relationships rot in your hands, why the ordinary cannot hold you. Jung discovered something terrifying about people like you. When you insist on meaning, you become an evolutionary catalyst. You force others to confront the emptiness of their own pretenses. You become the mirror they fear most. Sign 6. Outgrowing worlds. Jung warned, the greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. But what happens when you refuse to repeat that tragedy? Growth tears you apart from the familiar. You've shed skins, old roles, old conditioning, and each rebirth costs you people. Friends who knew you when you were small now look at you with unease. They miss the predictable version of you, the one who fit into their story. But you can go back. The curtain of illusion has been pulled. Once you've glimpsed the machinery of society's lies, you can never again kneel before them. Jung called it psychological death and rebirth, the endless cycle of endings, awakenings, and exile. And so you walk forward, haunted and liberated, never the same again. If people seem uncomfortable with your growth, if they keep begging you to shrink back into who you once were, whisper it to yourself. My evolution is not negotiable. Sign 7. Transformational presence. Jung once wrote, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what if you are the reaction? Some people alter a room just by entering it. They don't demand attention, they bend it. They create what Jung calls psychological holding space, a gravity field of authenticity. When people speak to you, they feel something unnerving seen, not the surface version of themselves, but the one they hide. You don't just hear words, you hear the silence between them. You don't rush to fix, you don't judge, you witness. That level of presence is healing and dangerous, because once someone has been seen by you, they cannot return to their masks so easily. But here's the shadow. Those with this gift often exhaust themselves. You become the endless container for other people's pain, forgetting that you too require space. Jung warned of this pattern, the helper syndrome, an unconscious self-sacrifice that drains you dry. The lesson is not to stop caring. The lesson is discernment, to know who deserves the sanctuary of your presence and who only seeks to feed from it. Sign 8. The unnamed purpose. Jung wrote, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And you feel it, don't you? That restless undercurrent, that quiet, relentless whisper that you are meant for more than ordinary life. It isn't ambition, it isn't ego, it is something older, deeper. Jung called it the transcendent function, the psyche's drive toward individuation and purpose. You might not have words for it yet, but it pulls at you, a pressure behind your ribs, a knowing that if you refuse it, your soul itself will turn against you. Jung observed this rebellion, anxiety, depression, a hollow sense of meaninglessness, symptoms of ignoring your calling. But here is the chilling part. Jung believed this purpose is never only personal, it is transpersonal. Your calling is instead about fame or applause. It is about serving the evolution of consciousness itself. Jung called such people differentiated individuals, minds complex enough to perceive what most cannot. But he also warned even the rarest souls carry shadows that can turn their gifts into prisons. The shadows of the rare personality, the superiority complex. You begin to believe rarity equals better. The result, isolation, arrogance, exile, the messianic shadow. You convince yourself it's your duty to awaken or heal everyone. The result, burnout, resentment, betrayal, the martyrdom shadow. You believe depth must equal suffering, that your gifts demand endless sacrifice. The result, a life of quiet self-destruction. Jung's warning was clear. Without shadow integration, even the rarest personalities collapse under their own brilliance. You are not here to be consumed by your gifts. You are here to wield them. And that begins the moment you stop apologizing for your depth and start claiming it. The goal isn't to kill these tendencies. The goal is to drag them into the light, so they no longer control you from the shadows. True psychological rarity includes the wisdom to choose when to share your gifts and when to preserve them, when to lead and when to follow, when to speak truth and when silence itself is the sharper weapon. Jung made a chilling observation about rare personalities in relationships. They attract two kinds of people, those who want to possess their light and those who want to extinguish it. The light seekers, they are drawn to your energy like moths to flame, but they have not faced themselves. They want your insight, your stability, your depth, but not you. They love the light you give them, while remaining blind to your humanity. The light dimmers, these are the ones who flinch at your intensity. They ask you to tone it down, be easier, stop complicating everything. Your authenticity unsettles them because it reminds them of their own masks. The light matchers, the rarest of all. those who have faced their own shadows. They do not feed from you or fear you. They meet you. They celebrate your fire while tending their own. Jung discovered something beautiful. When rare personalities navigate relationships consciously, they become living mirrors, not just exposing the truth in others, but calling it forth. But this comes with responsibility. You are not different for yourself alone. You are different for the evolution of humanity. Through your sensitivity, your questions, your refusal to bow to shallow answers, you help expand the borders of what it means to be human. This is why you cannot settle. This is why surface-level connections make you ache. This is why you'd rather stand alone than kneel to illusions. Yet, Jung also warned of a danger: psychological inflation, the trap of believing that rarity makes you superior. True strength is the balance of humility and power, knowing you are rare without believing others are worthless. Your sensitivity isn't fragility, it's intelligence sharpened to a blade. Your intensity isn't too much, it is precisely what is required to tear through numbness. Your refusal to settle isn't defiance, it is evolution refusing to stagnate. And here is Jung's startling prophecy: what is rare now will one day be common. As humanity evolves, more will awaken. You, right now, are the leading edge, a pioneer of consciousness, a scout into uncharted territory. Every time you felt like an outsider, you weren't lost. You were mapping new ground. Every time you were called too much, you were embodying possibilities that unsettled the stagnant. Every time you chose authenticity over acceptance, you stretched the human soul wider. Jung understood psychological evolution does not come through systems. It comes through individuals who refuse to accept the prison of normal, through people like you. Yes, it is lonely. Yes, it requires a courage most will never touch. But Jung's final insight is this: you must learn to love your rarity, even when no one understands it. You are not here to be understood by all. You are here to embody the future that others cannot yet imagine. That means accepting the cost. Some will resent you, some will diminish you, some will drain you. But those who are ready, those few, will recognize you as kin. The world does not need you smaller, quieter, safer. The world needs you whole, unapologetic, psychologically rare, and proud of it. If these words resonate, whisper it like a spell. I am evolutionary consciousness in human form. Remember, you are not too much. The world is too little. And it is people like you, the rare, the haunted, the unwilling to bend, who change that. See you in the next dimension.